So here's a generator that we have in our RV. It's an Onan 5000 Genset. It seems to be pretty common. There are a couple other Onan Genset models. From everything we found and looked up, they all seem to act pretty much the same way with components and how they run, so we're going to start getting into that. In general, how a generator works is you have your power source, you have a solenoid, you have your control board, you have a starter, flywheel, and then you have pretty much the generator itself. To show you all these parts and how it works, I'm going to start with taking off the control board so we can get the solenoid and everything else, just so you can see a better display of how everything flows together and where the power goes so the generator works. This is just held on with the Torx bit screws here, so I got a little screwdriver with a adapter, and we're just going to take those off. So that came off pretty easy, and now you can see all the insides of the generator here in the control board. So this is the control board. Basically what it is a little button that just says, hey, send power to the solenoid to send the power to the generator and everything like that. And then here is the solenoid. And what that does is takes the power from this cord here. And the solenoid is basically a bridge that connects to one side to the other. And so when you push the button to start it, the bridge connects and sends the power through over to the starter, which then activated, it sticks out and it twists with a lot of torque to turn the flywheel and start the generator. So that's pretty much the basics of how the generator works. Those are the four parts. You have the control board, solenoid, starter, and flywheel. We basically went in and replaced all of these parts that you could think of and found out a really simple solution that you're gonna want to stick around for because it might save you a lot of time and money. So as you can see, I just went over control board, solenoid, and back here is the starter, and then the flywheel is behind it. I'll put up a picture of the starter and flywheel here so you have a better idea of what they look like. So the story with our generator is it was working well and we had it running one day and then it just shut off and we weren't sure why. At first we thought it was the starter because of the way it wasn't starting up, it sounded weird. So we replaced that. I'll link everything below of what we did. You can actually find all these parts on Amazon, which is super nice because you can get it like the next day and they have a really good return policy. If it's not the right part, you can return it at no fee and it's just great. So we ordered the starter, replaced, and everything, which was really a pain because you have to go all the way back here to get it, add it. Really a two-man job. You can do it with one person, but it's extremely difficult. So my dad was helping me with all this the whole time. So we did it, we placed it, and pushed the button, and nothing happened, which was very frustrating. So then we were wondering maybe the power isn't getting to the starter, so we tested the solenoid, and you actually can bypass all of these parts throughout the system in different ways with jumper cables and other wires. So we actually bypassed this solenoid altogether and just put voltage directly on the wire that goes from the solenoid to the starter, and that actually worked. Then we thought maybe the solenoid was bad and needed to be replaced. Then we ordered a solenoid, another part here, to replace it, and we put that in, and the same thing was happening. We weren't getting power to the starter is what it sounded like. And after doing some more testing with the solenoids out, we actually found out that the original solenoid wasn't bad, so we ended up returning the old solenoid, which was nice because, like I said, with the Amazon, it's super easy. And then we thought the issue was maybe it is the control board, because from what we were finding, we were getting power in from this line, but it wasn't going from the solenoid back to the starter, which is what turns the starter and the flywheel and gets the generator all going. And then it also sounded like we were getting a bad ground connection from everything we were looking at and just from what we understand about this in general. So we decided to hook up the power itself to a car battery. And this is where we found the solution. We took a car battery and hooked it up, the positive right to this terminal right here, and then we hooked up the negative to the ground here, which the ground on the generator is just grounded to the whole frame on the RV, which is grounded to the negative on the batteries. So once we had the battery hooked up to the positive here on this terminal and to the ground here, and you push the button, it did work, which was a great sign because that means that the control board, the solenoid, starter, flywheel, everything worked really well. We just were having a bad ground or bad positive line somewhere. These are the two batteries that have power to the generator. And so we actually found out was that the ground connection was really bad up here. We cleaned it off with some grinders and hard wires, and we were able to get a clean connection. And so once we did that, we figured it had a good ground, good power connection, pushed the button, and still nothing. Well, I shouldn't say nothing happened. The generator was making a clicking noise, and it started making a different clicking noise once we changed that battery connection terminal. And when we came back, we tested it out, and we weren't getting any juice at all. And it was making a really weird clicking noise. We were plugged in at the time, we're not right now, so that's probably what the clicking noise was. But I'm gonna show you how you fix that clicking noise really easy. On our RV, and probably yours as well, there are many switches up here on the dash, and we have one that controls the coach batteries for the whole RV. So it's this one down here that controls the aux batteries off on, and we had it switched off just because we had it switched off when we were plugged in. And when we switched it on, the generator then worked. And as proof that it now works, we come back here and push the start button. The generator turns over and it'll start right up. So this is probably the biggest headache we ever worked on, because it was a really easy button up there that you just had to press and change the ground that we couldn't figure out. So hope if you're getting that clicking noise, if you do these two things, that'll help a lot. But if not, if you want to troubleshoot other parts of the RV, we'll get into that right now. Like we said earlier, here's the power that comes in to the solenoid, and then it acts as like a bridge that then connects the voltage from one side to the other. So if you want to troubleshoot if this solenoid is working on the other side of it, so if you take out these screws here, holding it in, on the other side of it, there's a wire that will connect to the starter. And if you then hook up this power to that starter, connect directly or with jumper cables, the starter should turn right away and it should fire right up. If this works and you bypass the solenoid and it starts right up, then your starter and your flywheel are good, which are great because those are really hard to get at. Then you know that the issue is somewhere from either the solenoid, control board, or your power source here. And to troubleshoot the solenoid, we don't have a great method. I'm sure you can with like a volt reader and stuff like that, but we just got a new one, plugged it in there. If something happened, it was probably a solenoid. If not, if you're getting the same response, chances are the solenoid was good and you're gonna put in the old one to save some money. If you tried that, if you tried bypassing the solenoid and that doesn't work, and the last piece here is your control board and the connection, which we already got into the connection, so highly recommend doing that first because it's the easiest and the cheapest. But if not, the biggest piece is going to be the control board here, and that is an expensive piece. We're talking $100 to $200 easily, whereas the solenoid, starter, and I mean connection cables can be anywhere from $20 to $50, so a lot cheaper. Now, if your generator is starting up and everything is working on it, it seems like, but it's not actually engaging and starting, chances are it's going to be your carburetor here, and that is an absolute pain to take out and clean and put all back together properly. However, if you get a can of carburetor cleaner and the starter fluid right here, you can bypass this by cleaning out your carburetor in a lot easier and faster of a way. So you take off this air filter here, and then you have your carburetor, and if you spray a little bit of starter fluid in there, just a quick little squirt, it's basically this extremely flammable liquid that when you start it, it'll fire right up, and then that should start your generator. Then you're gonna wanna take that carburetor cleaner and just squirt that in while it's running, just little squirts at a time, and you hear the generator kind of choke out from the engine, and then it'll fire back up. And you're gonna wanna keep doing this over and over and over again until you can spray probably 5 to 10 seconds of carburetor cleaner into your carburetor, and your generator doesn't really slow down or choke out at all. This was kind of the last piece of our generator here when we were fixing it, and it did the trick. We used the starter fluid to get it going, and once it was going, we put carburetor cleaner into it, and we probably got 2 or 3 cans of it and used a full can, probably 1.5, before it started to run really well. And now when we fire it up, it runs great. Haven't had any issues with it. Been using it for over 8 weeks now, pretty consistently, and I can say it has been a lifesaver in the RV living. One last small thing to note though with the Onan generator here is there is no priming button. I take this is a 97 Winnebago, so it's pretty old, so you might have a newer Onan generator, but there is no primer. So whenever you start it, you have to push it, hold it for a couple seconds, 3 or 4 times before it starts back up. And that's because there's no primer, so the gas isn't getting into the carburetor at all in like a trickled way. So it kind of has to start it, kind of run to spit some into there before it starts up. If you know of a way to prime it or get that so we don't have to hit it 4 times, please let me know in the comments. So that is pretty much the basics of how the Onan Genset 5000 works. Hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. And if you have any tips of advice on how else to shoot this, also leave it in the comments so people can look at it and help it out.